very much. So welcome everyone to our March Human Relations Board meeting. I appreciate the opportunity.
Your march will be throughout the downtown area using city sidewalks.
Lisa, yeah, I think she did.
We've got somebody who needs to mute themselves. There we go. Okay. Marcy Gillette's calling me, Chris. Is there anything she needs for this meeting? Did you want to text her? Thank you. So we do have a couple new members and they are both present, one virtually and one in person. So why don't we go around and just do a quick round of introductions that'll give folks a minute to hopefully get in the Zoom room if we have other people coming. Oh, there we go. There's Rebecca. All right. I'm Kathy Zender Wilson. I'm chair of the board. I'm going to go to my left and then we're going to come around when we get to Chris, if we get up to Zoom, and we'll have folks introduce themselves that way.
I'm Chuck Asher. I'm a new member.
Welcome.
Good to have you, Chuck.
Kimberly Holly with the city of Battle Creek.
Shannon Bagley with the city of Battle Creek.
Pastor Hooper, City of Battle Creek.
Chris Lucier with, I think Battle
City,
Creek.
yeah, it does. We're not doing titles, but just, it doesn't matter. I know that they wanted to just make the distinction, but all right, who do we have virtually? We've got Jennifer. Welcome as a new member.
Hi, yep, I'm Jenny Metzger.
Jenny. Hi, Jenny. Welcome. Nice
Thank
to
you.
have you. And we've got Derek and Roger both virtually. Derek, would you like to go next?
Hey, I'm Derek from Battle Creek.
All
Doing
right.
it virtually.
Thank you. Roger? Okay, we know that Roger's here. He is a city commissioner. Great to have him on board here. And then thank you to the city staff for being here and supporting us through this hybrid meeting. Lisa, do we have quorum yet? I'm thinking probably not. No, we do not. All right. So we will hold off on approval of minutes until we do. But we will do roll call right now. So Lisa, if you'd like to do that.
I'm not gonna take it.
If we could just, you guys going around the room and introducing yourself was good. I just need the people on Zoom to tell me where they're zooming in from.
Okay, good. All right. Derek, would you like to tell Lisa where you're zooming in from?
Hi, I'm Derek Freeman, zooming in from Battle Creek remotely.
Thank you. And Jenny?
Jenny Metzger zooming in from Battle Creek.
Roger? Okay, either he can't unmute or he's away from his computer at the moment. So can we go back to him, Lisa, in a second?
Hey, Kathy.
Yes.
Are we okay now?
There you go, Roger.
Yep. Roger, can you let Lisa know where you're zooming in from?
City Hall, and Bonica's on her way over there. She was here too.
Oh, so you guys are just in the wrong location? Is that what happened?
Yeah,
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
And then Kathy, since the commission appointed me as a member, I also need to let you know I'm zooming from Ann Arbor.
Okay, thank you very much, Rebecca. Thank you for that reminder. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. We had a great meeting last month, which I thought was really valuable, and we all hopefully had some time to process what we heard. And we'll get into that in a minute to see if there's any follow-up for us. But is there any communication to report, Lisa?
No, I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Committee reports?
I just want to, I
Oh.
skipped.
Oh
Lisa,
my
Leanne
gosh,
Wesley
I'm
present.
Sorry, I thought I went all the way around when we got to the screen. Yes, thank you for letting me know. We have one other person in the room that I forgot. Please introduce yourself.
Leanne Wesley.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I apologize for that. That's what I get for going in that direction. So Citizens Review Board, we did have, for those of you who are virtual, you should have received by email a document that says Human Relations Board Citizens Review Board Summary. That's just a placeholder title right now. Pao Shan and I, who I expect to join us anytime now, put this together as a draft outline for what we want to present to the city manager. It still obviously needs content and that will be added, but I wanted to at least get it in front of you and get any initial reaction about what is included in the actual outline. Because as you remember, if you recall, last month we discussed our goal is to request a workshop for the commissioners, but we want them to have as much information as they can. And we thought that this would give them some context. And then they would be the ones really making the decisions. And I think we got ourselves stuck a bit on trying to make the decisions on their behalf, thinking it had to be a finished product we were presenting in front of them, and that's really not the case. I think this is really about just getting them into understanding what a CRB is, what it could do, what we've done already, and how we might move forward. And for those who are new, CRB is a Citizens Review Board. We had a proposal presented to us through the city manager's office that was developed by the NAACP and some other community partners. And we have been in the process of communicating some suggested edits and trying to prepare for what it would look like to put that in front of city commission. And so our charge was to make recommendations based on that information and our own research. And so that's what we're trying to summarize here. Any thoughts or feedback? I know you didn't have a whole lot of time with it, but. All right, my specific request then, Chris, were you gonna say something?
Just that it reflected where we were in our last conversation in terms of what we want to include. So
Okay, good.
that's good what you put together.
The only thing that I think could see us really getting some feedback from folks is if you have yourself conducted any research specific to this that you think would be valuable for us to add, please go ahead and send that to me by email. And also if there were things within the community survey that we conducted that you thought were relevant to put in here. I just put some placeholders there based on Chris's analysis that he was sharing with us. I know there are others. So if there's something in particular that you found in the survey that really kind of spoke to you about what the community's response to this is, please feel free to share that with me. The
I
other,
think that
yeah.
one of the things that watching the meeting a couple meetings ago, I think that the fact that every demographic poll thinks that there should be a citizens review board. I think that's,
Okay, so lift that up.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think that's a good way to summarize. the
yeah, there's
support.
universal support.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. And then Chief, I think from your perspective, it'll be really important either to have a statement in here from you, a letter saying, here's what you know about them, here's what your position is around that. That will be helpful. And then I know that we talked about developing sort of a Q&A that you and I might be able to work on together that would go into the workshop. Like, here's some of the questions. Hello, Dina.
Don't, but I do today.
We've got some packets there for you, and Lisa's gonna try and keep roll to see where we are on our ability to get to a quorum.
And now that we've had a pause, this is Kiona. I joined at 4:05 and I'm joining remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
Thank you, Kiona. And Lisa, we have Dina Spencer who just arrived. Everybody just walked in. I thought I heard her voice as well. Yep, so we'll give her a second to walk in. Hello,
Well, and more
Bunika.
people may be coming because the doors are locked. So people are running late, just FYI.
Okay.
Trying to keep an eye out for us.
Yeah, okay. So Bunika is also here. Lisa, does this give us quorum yet? I know you change things up and it gets really.
Well, and I went.
Is Chuck Asher a member? I don't have him on my list.
He is. He was just,
Okay.
his nomination was accepted by at the last city commission meeting.
We have 10 members, so we do have a quorum now.
Okay, good, 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 good.
And then can someone make sure the door stays open? Because the door has to be unlocked to the building because it's a public meeting.
The door I just came in was unlocked.
Oh, was
Okay,
it?
great.
Yeah, and then the other guy came and opened the second door. I didn't know if it was unlocked or not.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
it was locked.
You had a locked door when
I
you came
did.
in? Okay, Chris is
I'll
gonna check
double
for
check.
us. All right, we all have to have grace and flexibility when it comes to this new hybrid work environment. All right, so good recommendations. Chief, if you're good working with me on that Q&A, I think that our goal, I know that How Shan and I had planned on meeting immediately following this meeting to put some more meat on these bones here, and he is without a car, so we're trying to find a time next week early to get together and do that. And then my hope would be that at April's meeting, we'll have something for you that you'll not just get the day of, but that you'll actually be able to review, and that we would then submit to Rebecca for consideration to the commission. Is that the process, how we'd follow it, Rebecca?
Yes, I think the only thing I would add is there was additional community conversation that asked specifically for there to be a dialogue with the commission on this topic in April or by the end of April.
And are you trying to honor that then? Is that what?
Yes,
hearing?
yes.
Okay. So if we get this to you, so my request then of folks is if we send this out by email, we'll give a pretty short window for review and feedback so that we can get it to Rebecca by the first week of April. Would that work? Okay. I work really good under pressure.
We don't offer that up.
Well, for this particular issue, all right. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go back to the approval of the minutes. So we had a meeting on February 15th. If somebody could make a motion.
So move.
All right, Dina supported. We've had 2 seconds. Did you get that, Lisa? Both Derek and Bunika seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. All right, minutes are approved from February 15th. Thank you so much. And thanks to the city clerk's office for always keeping on top of that. All right, code compliance. Just curious if anybody had any remaining questions. I know that, you know, Chris can be a good liaison for us from this discussion, but I just want to, again, express my appreciation for the staff that came and presented. I thought it was a really great, informative conversation. And I think I left feeling like these are folks who want to work with us and our residents and our neighbors. These are not folks that are out to really just, you know, get folks, and that we can play a good role, a pretty significant role in helping to create a different dynamic of what's understood out in the community. So I appreciated it.
The only follow-up, I would say the code compliance thing, and I think we need to talk about it too. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they presented, like help with painting and help with repairs and things. I had no idea they did that. And if we don't know, that means our residents don't know. So just like they do in the water bill with surveys and like, hey, did you know? And like newsletters, could we put something in there? Hey, did you know code compliance is here to help with A, B, and C? If you get a notice, here's who to contact and here's what we can talk about helping.
Social media as well.
Yeah, something.
Just yesterday, we got something in the mail from the city. It was
A
large.
newsletter.
Yeah, the newsletter, and it has something in there about home repairs.
Right.
Yeah, so I think there is an attempt. So, but being
Okay.
specific about more code compliance information.
Yeah,
and that
because
kind of
I'll tell you, I do have a
information.
neighbor that's had code complaints in the past calls and rightfully so.
Mm.
But she was under the impression that she's getting this giant fine versus, hey, I need help. Somebody help me. And so she didn't reach out for help because she didn't know she could. And so that to me, it's been, you know, a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, but nonetheless,
Yeah.
I'm sure there was programs then too,
There were.
Yeah,
you know?
just discussing what I learned in passing with people. I know that feedback I've gotten from everybody is, oh, I've only had awful experiences with them and I got signed without any notice. And so they are not aware of what resources they can provide and what their recourse is.
So, and just for a testimonial, so I have also had negative concerns and issues with code compliance in the past. And Jason Francisco and I actually had a conversation while I was commissioner about that. And I was like, I don't want you in my house. I was like, I already know. I said, you know, because of the type of situation, my father, who owns my house, was ready to sell it so that he didn't have to deal with the city of Battle Creek. Like, he and I had a very good dialogue about the actualities of code compliance and about how they're perceived, especially in the Black and brown community. Like, and I feel like they need to be more visible. A lot of people don't know about these, and I still get questions to this day from the people at the church, like, oh, well, I need to, code compliance is sending me letters, like, what do I do? And I was like, you talk to them. Like, they don't know because
Yeah, they're afraid.
they're afraid.
So there's some image work. to be done, it sounds like.
A lot of image
More
work
than it
and a
is
lot
spoken.
more communication. They have to be visible.
Have they been coming to
NPC meetings, from what I'm hearing, yes.
They go to every NPC meeting for the last 40 years. Yeah. So
I think the challenge with MBC meetings is a lot of the folks that you hear from aren't going to MBC meetings.
Yeah,
So I think that really helping people understand the value of that as a way for them to stay connected to what's going on, you know, is one thing we could also do, is really extend and suggest that for folks. Because it is a really good, it's a liaison space for people in the neighborhood. It does a few things. It gives you connection to the people who are doing things in the city. It also helps you connect to your neighbors. And that's a great way to increase safety and really kind of build that fabric of your neighborhood.
I'll just be real frank, like I think our code compliance, I'm like super proud to be associated with the folks at code compliance, you know, so they're my colleagues. And I really feel like they took us out of the dark ages, like in 2005, we didn't inspect any rentals. I mean, we had all kinds of every day, we inspected very few rentals, put it that way. I think we had done 3,000 in 30 years and now we do 3,000 a year. So just to put it in perspective. So it's dramatically changed housing in Battle Creek, just from an operations perspective. There's other pieces that I really like, but the messaging piece, it just seems like the greatest travesty that I also speak regularly about the impact they actually have on housing. Code compliance is the cheapest, most efficient and impactful interventions, housing intervention strategy we have in Battle Creek. And I do substantial rehabs for a living. I am involved in lots, you know, we do minor home repair. We do lots of other types of interventions. None of them are nearly as efficient or as effective or have been as impactful in the marketplace in terms of creating value in neighborhoods. And that's not the perception that most people have. That to me seems like a huge swing and a miss. And that just doesn't seem like that needs to be the case. People should have a sense that it is an important and vital strategy. And when they're doing their part, it has a huge impact overall for our community and what it's doing to our neighborhoods. You know, private landlords have invested so much money. I mean, we often think of them in a negative light, but they have invested so much money in the last 20 years into Battle Creek properties as a result of being, I mean, so code compliance may have said, hey, we need you to raise this to a minimum standard of safety, but they did that, you know, and they did do it over the last 20 years. They're the ones that largely underwrote that or funded that. And in the last 15 years, we've made dramatic gains. So in terms of the safety and having a minimum standard for rental, you know, so it just seems like they've been a great partner. And code compliance is vital. We should have a sense of that. And somehow we don't seem to.
Yeah, well, I'm curious from the city's perspective, like, is each department responsible for its own communication around building that public will around what they do? Or is there a collective strategy? This might be a Rebecca question. And if so, how do they decide what gets highlighted? So if, from Jessica's perspective, if it's her, right? Like, how do you decide what you're gonna do? Is that a fair question, Rebecca?
Oh, certainly. I'll come back and echo a few things that Chris was saying, but yes, so each department is responsible for helping our communications team know what needs to be lifted up. Some are routine in nature. Others, you know, are associated with a specific project or, you know, priority or something of that nature. So that's how those types of things are lifted up through communications. And we try to use a variety of platforms to do that.
One suggestion I would have, especially with some of the information that we're being given that needs to be out in the community. We get a lot of stuff coming up in Battle Creek here in a very short amount of time. We need to have this stuff readily available because the people that need this stuff aren't getting it. Just to be honest. Like, we need to make sure this is dropped off to like the churches, because like I said in a previous meeting as a commissioner, I don't open my water bill unless it's yellow. I don't, just to be honest. And that was something that came up in the community conversations that we had during COVID. How many people saw the survey? No one had seen the survey or even knew there was one out because they don't open the water bill unless it's yellow. That means your water is going to get cut off in like 5 days. Like, that's the reality of it. Okay, we have to encourage people to take some responsibility and open their mail, but we need to put it where people can, where it's easily accessible. Because there is a fear of the city of Battle Creek and code compliance in a lot of our neighborhoods. And a lot of these programs and the upkeep of these properties need to happen in those neighborhoods. And people are scared to come to the city because they know there's fines and fees attached. They know there's a chance your house could be deemed inhabitable and you have to go. Like, that's a lot of concern that I heard in the last 3 years. I'm still getting calls about code compliance that I'm sending and directing people to because people are scared to deal with code compliance because of 50 or 60 years of unequitable treatments.
And it doesn't go away quickly.
It doesn't.
So do we have a recommendation specifically for our city staff around what we'd like to see happen based on what we've now learned? The input we've gotten from code compliance about the assets they provide neighborhoods. Like what would our recommendation be specifically? All right, Bonika, I hear you saying like getting information to churches and other places. In what form? What does that look like? Is that somebody going and talking to the churches? Is that
Even just the paperwork that we just got here. Juneteenth, there's planning going on for Juneteenth. There's a macaroni and cheese festival going on downtown. Their farmers market starts up in May. Like, we need to have a booth out and this stuff in there, even if we just have volunteers sitting there. Hey, did you know there's minor home repair funding now? Because we had people asking, and until the funding came in, people were asking every single day. And it's like, hey, wait, like this program's closed, like we're waiting for this, and people don't know. And we need to be handing it out. It's a lot of paper, but a lot of these people that need it are on the other end.
And we don't have a social media either, right?
Oh, no, we
Our
don't.
board.
there is?
Oh, our board.
Our board does not.
Okay.
But the city, social media presence, so that is one way,
And
and it can be as simple as, hey,
most
did you know?
Knows the asses of Calhoun County.
That's what I
put it
was
on
just
there.
about to bring up.
They
Most
have
people
more,
go
they
there
have
to find
10
out what's
times
going on.
more followers than
Okay.
any page of the city government.
That's where everybody I know goes to find out what's going on in Battle Creek.
Does the city have any presence there, Rebecca?
I've seen Jessica post on there before, I want to say.
No, we do not have a regular presence on there. If something is brought to our attention, then we'll attempt to respond.
Okay. Jeffrey is I just am noticing that he's on as well now. Welcome, Jeffrey. Can you let Lisa know where you're dialing in from?
Remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
All right, welcome. We're talking about code compliance now. I'm not sure how long you were on there. I wasn't paying attention to the screen, sadly.
I just got on.
Okay, if you have any follow-up questions or comments about our presentation last month, that's what we're talking about.
Oh, no, nope.
Okay.
We haven't been to Mac and Cheese Fest.
It's new.
I know, but so that's what we haven't done. But like, I mean, how many times have I been door to door with you, Pastor Joe, handing out resources about house? I mean, I've personally walked the entire Washington Heights neighborhood, maybe 2 or 3 times. You know, going door to door, talking to people. Usually on a Saturday, usually after 2 or 3 hours, you get to a doorstep in the Heights and someone's got your flyer already in their hand because someone stopped by with it. You do that post, you know, we've done that many times in post. You know, we filled your church with 90 people and we got about $300,000 worth of resources pumped into the neighborhood through that effort, which covered a bunch of different resources.
I think that's one time we get notices when there's a project that we're involved in.
And there's community
That's
work
a
with it.
blast. But like you say, all the rest of the time though, people are still missing.
They're not getting it.
And that comes because you're a trusted vessel in the community. And they say, if you say, hey, they're doing good work, they're trying to help you, coming from you, it's reputable. They don't know these other people, just being honest, like full transparency, like they would trust it coming from you. If I tell the people at Washington Heights Church as I'm serving them dinner, hey, this is what they have, these resources are available to you, they're gonna be like, oh, and they're gonna actually call it. If I say, hey, code compliance is willing to work with you, like all you have to do is call and tell them you need help. They're gonna listen to me, but if you just announce it in the newspaper, they're gonna be like, they're still gonna be hesitant about it because of their past experiences.
That makes a big difference in the Heights. But that neighborhood is very different than a lot of other neighborhoods in Battle Creek. And I was gonna say, like in the Post neighborhood, we've done it just as much there and we've done it with plenty of trusted partners. we get, 90 in the Heights. The very next summer, we did the exact same effort, probably put more energy into it, and did mailers in the same neighborhood and got like 2 or 3 people to show up. And it's much tougher. We've done it many, many times. So, I mean, that's part of the challenge is how do you reach 50,000 people? There is no silver bullet. I've been doing community engagement for 20 years. If it exists, it's somehow eluded me, and I feel like I've been just about everywhere. Talked to just about, about community engagement. I will say that the newsletter that went out yesterday in the mail, between 1 and 4 o'clock yesterday, we got 20 phone calls.
Yeah.
So people are reading that. I was excited as soon as I saw it. I knew it was coming out, but I was like, ooh, I can't wait to read this. Maybe I biased, and maybe that's a little weird, but 20 people called for housing
Yeah,
reviews.
my
Between
daughter
1
sent
and
me a
4.
screenshot and said, look, I think I might be able to qualify for something. Like, I mean, so people are reading it, which is good. That's my very small vessel, but if you got calls, then that means.
So what about that? Like, Public Works also does this great newsletter that when I saw there, I know nothing about Public Works, really. And so when I saw their newsletter, I was intrigued. And I opened that up and I leafed through it. I wonder, something about it being sort of a substantial piece with lots of interesting information. And then our placement, colorful and right in the inside page. I don't know.
It wasn't even folded. Like it was a full on, like, it came in and it was nice and clean. It was a really nice document. I know those are more expensive to produce and to mail, but if we're getting the results, right? So could code compliance look at something similar to what DPW does? And is it with what frequency? Maybe it's just about consistent messaging, right? Just like people begin to see it. I don't know.
And I do like Bonika's idea about all these tabling events. Yes, that requires someone to volunteer their time or a staff person to be paid, whatever that looks like. But she's right, you've got all kinds of stuff this summer.
And even elementary and middle school Friday folders. Parents are
there's all
required
kinds
to
of
go through that folder and sign, send it back. Like,
Food
that's somewhere else you can put it, especially if it's a neighborhood that's high in homes that need to be repaired.
Right, food distributions every month.
Yeah. You can go right in the box.
Pride Festival coming up, Juneteenth.
Yeah,
You've
so
got-
food-
So we can go to
everywhere.
Juneteenth. We have a booth at Juneteenth.
Food distributions, you're gonna want to, because those boxes get packed in advance.
Right, but they
So you're
have
gonna
handles,
wanna-
you can slide something through the
Right.
handle.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or even have somebody volunteering and handing them out as
Right,
people grab
because
their box.
we do a food distribution, you have to collect data from each client or each family that
Before they
goes
get their
through
box.
and physically hand them the box or put it in their car. You hand them the flyer and go, hey, did you know, here's some information on what's happening. Then it could be a half a sheet of paper. Did you know they help with A, B, C, and D? Here's who to call.
What about the Campbell Street Pantry every month?
Yes, any of those, all of those. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It can, just like I said, a half a sheet of paper printed that you hand to somebody.
I think about the things that we pass out though too, like, so they just started sending this out. But this actually came from our division and we hired a marketing firm to develop materials for us. So to be able to take to those places so that we had things, particularly around lead abatement work. And so if you're getting this, if you're getting what some people, what I heard 3 people say was they got scary letters. They thought they were getting big fines. They were afraid. But if you're getting something that's colorful, has pictures of families on it, the messaging's a lot different, I think, if there's something like that. Like, that's another piece I wonder about is like, what's the message when we're communicating? I think the fact that we're already communicating with folks and we've got their attention. And now there's going to be a need right then is when we need to be hitting them with a really strategic message. They need to know what's urgent and important. And there probably are legal things that have to be covered, but also it's a place to engage them right then. Why is this happening? What's the bigger picture? And Jason did say like they have all those, here are all the available resources on the page too. But I think there's a difference, and they're sending this out this year. They started doing this piece. I think there's a difference between having them listed there, like on a document that looks like this and more some of the imagery, of just happy people, families, thriving environments,
Well, and even the messaging around, like, if you were to produce something, it's saying, like, the lead is Battle Creek cares about its neighborhoods and cares about you, right? Instead of, hey, here's code compliance and what we do, like, really kind of some soft language around leading up to what the values are. of the city could go a long way.
Or even if you need help repairing your home. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yep.
Home repair assistance available, like, it's all in the wording. In the approach.
How can we help you?
Yeah, so we've gotten some recommendations here. We'll make sure that we, continue to follow up with this, but, consider yourself an ambassador as well. So I know, Bonica, it sounds like you do that, right? Like, for all of us in our areas of influence, the folks that we have the ability to reach, make sure that we're talking about it in a way that is going to be helpful and constructive as well. Could be beneficial for us to have some talking points. So are there 4 things that code compliance would want us to lift up if we're in front of a group that would be really helpful for us to say? Because I have to say that, I don't know that I would connect home repair with code compliance. Like, they might feel like they're 2 different things to me. So, I mean, I just wonder if there's any way for us to get some talking points that would be helpful when we're trying to talk about it.
So one thing Jason said at the last meeting was that post edition is, he gave the locations that were up for inspection this year. That's important to know.
Yeah.
And post edition was one of them. And I've talked to several people that live in post edition that I know need help. Like, hey, they're going to inspect post edition this year. This is one of their areas of focus. They have assistance available, like, just from knowing people. And even if we made like the ambassadors from these churches and organizations that are on those sides of town, Trinity Lutheran Church is on that side of town, St. Mark's Church is on that side of town. And just let them know so they can tell their congregations and their people, or have a flyer posted on a bulletin board. That makes a difference, because there's that trusted reminder again from somebody you respect and you trust, saying, hey, the city is looking for people to help. Like, do you need help with minor home repairs? See if you qualify. And that's that gentle, friendly push in the right direction that could help not only alleviate some of the fear of code compliance. Hey, code compliance is helping with minor home repairs and they're partnering with the city. Like, that's a gentle touch. I can take this flyer and sit it at Washington Heights and somebody's gonna ask me about it. Like, hey, is this true? Do you know anything about that? They still, like, they're gonna do that. And I can say, yeah, all you gotta do is call and they're helping people and you can see what you qualify for. It's just how we put it into the community.
Any of our online folks there have anything to say? I haven't been being able to pay attention with hands or anything. All
Just listening.
right, thanks,
I
Rob.
remember, Derek, you may not remember what your questions were from last time, but I just remember you said you had lots of questions and didn't have time to get them in at the last one. So
And now's your time, Derek.
I don't really have too many questions per se. It was just some thought process. I just wanted to know the demographic of the board. I mean, we talked about several subjects now, but the demographic of the somebody help me.
Code compliance.
Yeah, the demographics of the code compliance. And then I was doing some math. Let me see how many houses that each of them code compliance officers see per year, and it was just a high number. Saying, let me get to it. Y'all put me on the spot, y'all.
Sorry.
But I also want to talk about like what you guys are talking about right now about like getting stuff out to the community. One thing that I always said is that, and I heard Bonica say this a lot too, and also Kiona, about we need to meet people where they at. You know, we talk about like certain people getting mails and certain people not. It's really where you meet them at. If we talk about a water bill, putting information in a water bill, I never ever received a water bill since I lived here in Battle Creek because I don't have to pay water. So that's a thought process that nobody have brung up yet. Eventually I will be getting water bills, but right now at this moment we don't get water bills in apartments, in most of our apartments in Battle Creek. So if you're putting it just in water bills, then how do it get out to the non-water bill holders? That's just a thought process.
I didn't have a water bill.
Same. Thank you, Derek.
I would just add, and you can correct me if I'm making a misstatement, Rebecca, that with the newsletter, the community newsletter that went out to every residence as opposed to the water bill for that very reason that Derek mentioned.
Yes, you are correct. Because we get a variety of input about how best to share information. And so Jessica and our communications team, they're trying a variety of mediums. So this year we're going to be attempting direct mailings. You know, we've been told that that's kind of an old practice, but when we survey our community, a lot of people still want to get that in their hands. And to Bonika's point too, not necessarily through the water bills, it's a direct mail. And, you know, so far, it only just went out, you know, was received starting yesterday. We're getting good responses. So we're always looking for the best way to connect. And yes, Kimberly is right. This year for the community-wide newsletter, we're attempting to do direct mailers to every residence within the city limits.
I know that when I see something that the city has posted on its Facebook page, I share it. I know that people will like tag people on it and say, hey, Bill, did you know that this was available to you? So that I don't think that is like, to Chris's point, the only way to do it, but I think there are multiple ways we can think about how we can get the word out as well.
I got one more question about code compliance. Was that every 3 years they go out there to a area, or was it every 4?
Chris, every 3 years?
Yeah, so that's what so I did the numbers. I think it was 17,000 residents and 4,000 businesses. Am I correct? Equaling 21,000 different buildings or residents that we go out to. Divided by 5 people, I think that's about 4,200. And then you divide it by 33%. It's just 1,386 per year that each individual code compliance. And I was trying to figure out, like, how do you make sure that each house is represented in that case? Or businesses.
They do an exterior check, so they stand in front of every single house in the city every 3 years. So, yeah, and every single business. And that survey is what they can see from the public right away.
Oh, so that's not going to the door and talking to somebody, that's just in front of the house?
No, that's not, no, so a survey is just an exterior, looking for exterior violations, and then they go from there. A rental inspection, there are other types of inspections they do that are a different process, that are in addition to the doing those surveys of all the properties. For example, a rental inspection is actually going inside and doing an interior and exterior inspection of rental properties, so.
And or if they've received a call, right? Like,
Yeah, and or if they receive a call, though, if you receive a call, depending what it is, if it's a call about something on the exterior, which is what you'd expect, then they will only they'll look for that violation, but from the public right away, or if it's like from a neighbor or something in its property that they have access to, like say someone says, it's over my backyard fence, and they can view it from there, and they let them on the property, they will do that. Those are the limits to.
Thank you, Chris. I just thought that there was a lot of houses to see per year, especially with the short time, because we also stated that it's not year round. So I'm approximately thinking that it's about 8 months out the year that you guys are really out there, maybe even 6 months out the year. And for each one of them code complaints to actually hit, even stand in front of 13, I'm gonna say almost 1,400 houses a year. I think that's a lot. So I was just trying to figure out how we get that done and how is it documented that that is done, because we saying every house is done. How are we making sure that every house is done? And the reason why because I have heard people in the community talk about how code compliance might be targeting them, and just for me to be able to have that information to give back to the community, like, no, they make sure that they check every house, every home, every residence, every business in a 3-year span.
There's a digital record, and that data is publicly available. Actually, go to the city's website and you can query it. If you go to City of Battle Creek NPC report, if you Google that, it'll take you every single type of issue, including housing inspections, weed complaints, all of those issues are laid out there, and you can generate your own little report. It's not very techy. You just say what issues you want to query and the time frame, and it'll automatically generate those. And the ones that are those exterior, stand in front of the property reports, those are called housing surveys or property surveys. And so you'll be able to see those issues. Some of them may be numbered for the neighborhood planning council that they're in. So you would just select those issues and run that report, and it would show you every one of those that's happened. You can run it for 3 years. It'll show you every one that's happened for 3 years. So we map a lot of that data to see where that happens so that we can, like I'll show it in relation to where we invest our money. So we'll make maps of that to see how is that affecting where people start inquiring about housing resources. That kind of thing.
Thanks, Chris.
So anyway, Deanna's idea of food distributions, and some of you know, I retired from community action a couple months ago. And the service providers in the city, we're talking about city, community action is in 8 counties, our community action. We provide a lot of service to people who are already reaching out for some type of assistance. It could be utility assistance, food assistance, it could be transportation, it could be anything. If we can find a way to get that information directly to those people, because the people they're asking for that assistance are somewhat trusted people.
Yeah, I was thinking of 211 too.
211 is, yeah, same thing.
Okay.
But like our intake workers at community action, I keep talking about in the present tense, that's not the case.
Gotta let go, Chuck.
But the intake workers are right across the desk from someone. So,
They're already in financial hardship for
Right.
whatever reason.
So they're
If
a higher
collecting food
likelihood,
Or
yeah.
collecting, going through you for, or CAA or 211 for services. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna eat or I'm gonna paint my house, and I'm gonna eat first. And that's just how it is, because that's gonna be that way for everybody. And so that's gonna be the last time you
We have
live. I've lived
800
that life, I
How many
know.
families enrolled in Head Start in the city? Probably 350
Right.
low-income families.
Yeah, I think that leaning on the community partners is a really good way to go. I think the other thing to recognize is that often that will happen, in my experience in doing work with community development and early childhood, is that you do it and you feel like you've done it, but there is so much turnover, but you don't institutionalize it. So like, what is the onboarding for an intake specialist at community action? Are they made aware of these resources? Because at some point, I bet many of them already knew, right? And they would
Yeah.
probably be
The
sharing.
problem
and
is
they'd be-
they are, but there is so much, because they're doing
Yes.
intake for 16 programs.
Yeah, and 8 counties and
And
yeah.
there's so much
Yeah.
for them to absorb. So it has to be recurring.
Yep. Yeah.
To Derek's question, well, so underlying some of your questions about like the demographic makeup of code officers. So wondering, does it reflect the makeup of our community, that kind of thing. I think those are really good questions, and certainly ones that we should be asking. I did attempt to try and, so we do a lot of data analysis in my division, and because we partially fund code compliance, we incorporate code compliance into all of that data analysis. A couple months ago, in preparation for this discussion and for the presentation last month, I tried to get in and do some look to see if there were some disparate impacts based on race or other demographic characteristics. It's very tough to do because we don't collect, any kind of race data that you could connect to actual code complaints. Like that's not a thing. There is no data for that. I did try to look at neighborhoods where you had the highest concentrations of certain protected classes that are covered by fair housing. So certainly looked at race and ethnicity to see if I could notice any kinds of patterns that would at least be worthy of discussion. And I did not find any discernible patterns, but the first thing I would say is that it would probably take a much more concerted effort to do. It wasn't, sometimes those pieces of data analysis could be really easy, like taking the survey data and making some charts. That was relatively easy for me to do for this group. We were looking at the Citizens Review Board. This suddenly looked, oh, wow, this would be a huge project and it would take a lot of effort. But it may be worth doing. And I think it's the kind of thing for this board that I think would be really helpful to do. It would be good to know.
Yeah.
How is it, this is not, how is this impacting people? And, Jason was at least able to show through some of his data analysis that it's a the idea of a elderly homeowner who's on a fixed income, who doesn't have the resources to address a critical need, and they're getting a code compliance issue and it's leading to some citation or fine. Homeowners that get a citation is less than a percentage point, right, of all the things that go out the door. Still could be a high number of people, but in terms, he was able to show that kind of stuff, but getting beyond that to look even further to see if there are other impacts.
Yeah.
It's worth doing, I think. we're thinking about.
So Chris, if you could, work with Jason on what you heard here and just, I think it's a continued conversation. I don't think this is done because we had a presentation and a conversation, but I know that we're at a quarter of, and we've got a few more things to cover. So again, this will be a continued conversation. If you have other thoughts, please feel free to email as a follow-up. I do want to have a short discussion, and I'm going to ask Rebecca for some support here around, if she's still there. Do we still have Rebecca?
Kathy, I believe Rebecca was on and then she had to leave or she got kicked off. I don't see her anymore.
Okay, all right, thanks for letting me know. So I'm going to be winging this
Absolutely.
bit. We have 2 existing board members who, since being appointed, have moved out of the city but wish to remain on the board. And we wanted to bring it to the board's attention to just have a discussion about, they're in the ordinance, it does not require that they live in the city. So I did check that. So that is not a restriction, but I just wanted us to have an open conversation about what we feel is important, right? So Pao Shen, who most of us know now, has been part of the board for maybe close to a year or just under that. Just was reassigned to Kalamazoo. So he is living in Kalamazoo now, but is still very interested in serving on the board if we'll have him. Amira Austin was working here and living here for a time and then got a job in Grand Rapids. And so has been still participating mostly, but always virtually because of her work. So thank you for joining us again, Rebecca. I was just moved on to the conversation. It's okay. And letting folks know about the 2 members we have that have since moved out of town.
I can tell you that Rebecca can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was a firefighter, I was also a city firefighter for 25 years. Our Civil Service Commission, we had a couple times where a commissioner moved out of town. And they allowed him to continue, and it was in the Public Act, to continue in that position until his term was up, or his or her term was up.
Okay.
So I think we have terms in this committee, right?
Yes.
So that's just a thought. We could model it after civil service.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
So let the renewal process, but complete the term that they're in.
I think it's still a good idea. Amira's reach in Battle Creek, her social media reach is huge. And she's still invested here because she still has family here. That's true.
That was
So, yeah.
my question,
Yeah.
is what is their impact on the community still? Do they have strong ties? Are they able to reach people and give and receive information? If so, they might still be useful for.
Yeah, I don't know how we'd evaluate that.
She's also of a younger generation, which we cannot reach. So just to be honest. Okay, sure.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like you're both bringing up the point that they do have that connections here. And with them not living here, like, are we talking Emmett Township or are we talking Grand Rapids or Kalamazoo? I mean, there's a difference, right? To me, in my mind, like Emmett Township to me is still Battle Creek, even if you're not in the square of the city limits.
Right.
I think you could make an argument for both sides, honestly.
I think they're for the length of their term.
Yeah.
But I think if it's like, if they move, for instance, Bedford, the city of Battle Creek has a strong presence in Bedford
Yeah.
Township. I don't
Right.
think there's any, with the police, I don't think there's any issue there personally.
Bedford's still Battle Creek.
How about our
It
folks
is.
online? Any comments or thoughts?
Does,
Hi, Roger, please, Commissioner.
does the city have just an overall policy on citizens versus non-citizens on any and all that would cover us instead of us trying to recreate something here for this committee?
That's a good question, Commissioner. And unfortunately, it's very specific by board and commission. As Chuck indicated, Act 78 gave guidance in that particular area for civil service. In this case, there is no guidance in the resolution that created the Human Relations Board that says you have to be a city resident. And I appreciate what Dina specifically state. You have to live within the city limit. It has to be a city resident. So that would exclude Bedford and Emmett. as an example. And it's very specific and different for many of our boards and commissions.
This one, Rebecca, just to be really clear, we do not have that limitation on this board currently.
Do not. We had Jill take a look at it. That's why, there was no immediate need to remove Amira and Paushen because they no longer live in the city. But, in talking with you, Kathy, we wanted to get the input of the group because there are some that feel we should have more resident representatives than non-resident representatives on certain boards and commissions. But in this instance, it's really up to this board.
Do we have to have an official policy or can we just, case by case basis? I say that because I don't know Paushan's connection to the city with him not living here. So let's just say right now he's got the strong connection to Battle Creek for whatever he's got going on. Well, let's say in a year from now, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's really settled in Kalamazoo. He's really plugged in over there and he really doesn't have that connection here. That could look different in a year compared to right now. So it would be much less relevant to keep him on in a year versus right now, possibly. So can we just case by case this? And I mean, I don't know or does it have to be a set? This is what we do and this is what we don't do.
Can we look at that when we bring in new people? Like what is their ties to Battle Creek? Because for say, I have a job offer in Chicago. I will still own property and still have a child living in Battle Creek and I'm still going to be working on projects in Battle Creek. So does that mean I don't have as strong of a connection or tie to the community?
That's what I mean. It's a case by case situation. I don't know. That's how I see it.
My suggestion is also to figure out like how we determine someone's connection. So if you're gonna make a policy, I don't know if it's gonna be about the connection. How do we determine how someone's connected in the community of Battle Creek?
That would be really hard to measure. from my
Neighborhood
perspective.
planning councils do it though. I mean, neighborhood planning councils, you don't have to, you have to have a business in the neighborhood or where where you work or be a resident of. You have to be able to have some kind of demonstrated interest. Yeah, and then, and then someone rules on whether you make a case for that, and then the planning council decides whether or not, and in this case, it'd be the city commission would determine whether or not it was sufficient enough, if we wanted to go with the standard. like
Yeah,
that.
and I think if we had a waiting list of 20 people wanting to be on this board, I think this would be a different conversation. Personally, I feel that, right? Like, that's not the situation we're in right now. And I also think that what their demonstrated interest is that they show up, right? I think that if you are actually engaging in the work that we're doing, where there is a challenge for me is their ability to serve as that ambassador, to actually be the ears on the ground, because the idea of the Human Relations Board was to keep our pulse on what is going on in the community, to bring it to the city's attention and also do the opposite, right? And so there's, I'm torn on this one. I like the idea of just letting them finish the term. I don't know if you've moved since then, if there is benefit to a renewal of that position. I don't know.
If we voted on it, I would like the idea of letting folks finish out a term if they were expressing an interest to continue to do that. That makes sense to me, and it's for a finite period of time. I do think there's an opportunity cost. We have done pretty well recruiting for this board, and there are other people in the community we could be going out to, are going to be active in the community. And I would vote for someone who had an expressed interest in the city of Battle Creek within the defined city limits. That is important to me because we're advising the city commission, and the city commission, their authority ends at the boundary with Springfield. So I know that's, there are other interests because policing does go into Bedford, so maybe that might make some sense. But where we have some jurisdiction, like where the city has jurisdiction, is important to me. And I think they're, but I'm just saying, like, if it came to a vote, those would be important issues and how I voted. But if someone I like the idea that someone's working in Battle Creek or has some kind of vested interest matters to me. Like that seems compelling to me. Doesn't necessarily have to be about residency. I've seen that work for neighborhood planning councils. So
since we can easily gauge their ties to the community, can we give them the opportunity to present what they are able to bring to the community?
If they were
board
willing
after,
to.
yeah.
Oh, if they wanted to renew their terms?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
They were, yeah. Like, I'm all for letting them finish out their current term, but if their request is to continue, give them an opportunity to present to the board why they would be beneficial.
All right, so Rebecca, what is the current precedent maybe of like term renewals? And do people just get called by the city and they're asked if they want to continue? Is there a reapplication process?
Again, a little bit of variance for each one of our boards and commissions. The staff liaison and or the chair would usually approach a board or commission member that's term is expiring. And then, the city commission has established a review committee to take a look at, and oftentimes the mayor and the vice mayor reach out to the candidates as well, even if it's a reappointment, to just be sure they still want to continue to serve. And to Chris's point, you don't have to take any formal action. That could happen organically at the time terms end. But you could also ask for the membership of the Human Relations Board to change with some sort of a desire that they, as Chris said, we do with neighborhood planning commissions. You've got to have a connection, and we define that as you live here, you work here, or see.
When I had to renew my term, I had to redo an application, and I will be honest, I never heard a word about it. So no one ever got back with me, so I
And
just
confirmed.
assumed I was still here, that's why.
So if that was, so if that was my job, I failed.
Well, and that, but I did have to do a new application.
Well, and we have been revamping that process since right before COVID, and even the application itself has changed. And there was a lot of kind of muddy period of time where we were trying to get all the applications consistent and come up with a more unified system with staff liaisons and commission, so that something like that, doesn't happen in the future. I can't say it won't ever. We're all
No, it's
human
okay.
beings.
And I don't think I did the full application, like I didn't have to put like, what do I bring to the table? Because you already know, because I'm already here. But I think it was like an application, like, are you still interested? And why are you interested, or whatever, something a little less intense, but.
So I think, we don't have to take any action today. I think we want to be as, was that Kiona?
Yeah, I think it was Mr. Cotton.
No, and I think
Oh,
it
I'm
was
sorry,
it was
my
a
bad,
puppy, I think.
Anybody have anything to say that I didn't catch? Yeah, that was a baby, I think I heard. All right. I can't hear enough of that. I know we've got about 4
Do we
minutes.
not want to take action?
Are we ready to
We
take
have
action
two, we
now?
have two folks. I
We have two.
just want to say for the record, I'm super bummed that we're losing, that we could potentially lose them at some point. They both have been great contributors to this board.
Is there a specific action you'd like to take? It's just to maybe confirm that they can continue
I can just
their
make
term?
make a motion real quick,
Yeah.
and we can see if that's what we want to do or not, right?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we allow the two of them to continue to serve until the end of their term.
A second.
All right, it's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposite? Or if you don't want it, say no. All right, so Rebecca, are we good with that then? We'll let the two of them continue, and then we will decide. I think I'll work with Rebecca on whether or not we want to put something formally on the agenda in the future about whether or not we update the ordinance around this board to reflect specifically what we'd like, and we'd have a conversation about that. So I know we try and spend some time on points of interest, things that you've been hearing, but I did want to draw to your attention that Chief brought for you, based on the conversations we've been having, a report about, this is the Spider Tech detail, right? Is there anything specific you'd want to lift up?
No, just showing you our latest information, and everybody online, Becca should have emailed you a copy of this digitally, so you should have that in your email, if you'd like to join us. Just a couple points of interest. So this information contained in the document, we started Spider Tech on September 5th, 2022. And this is data up to March 14th, 2023. So you're talking message delivered, when that means when a call is initiated vis-a-vis our CAD system, then this automated texting system is automatically sent to their phone number. We've had 59,097 of those messages sent. Part of those texts sent is a reply with a survey, and you can see some of the data captured on the pages. We have about a 15% return rate on those text messages being sent.
Chief, does that like, does Spider Tech give you some sense of what is typical for a response rate on the survey?
Yeah, exactly. So if you look at some of the data here, if you just turn the page over, you'll see some you know, some of the information collected is, you know, recently called the Battle Creek Police Department, of course, yes. Did you interact with the Battle Creek police officer? That's a 60% yes. No, the reason why that is sometimes that's a TRO, right? A telephone response that they receive depending upon the call for service. So that's about accurate. How satisfied are you with the professionalism of the 911 dispatch? Because dispatch basically is a form and function of how we kind of, the point of contact, they are also participatory with Spider Tech. How satisfied are you with police department's response call time? It's a 4.3 out of 5. So you're rated from a 1 to 5, being 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. And then you know there's you can go through and look at, you know, all the other data sets. But you know, this is a tool that we use. It's real-time data achieved at the time of call for service of the officer on scene. So it's captured extremely freshly. It's captured within minutes after the officer clears the scene. So it gives a pretty good sense and paints a decent picture for us.
Yeah, I would think that one area we'd want to pay attention to is how safe do you feel living and being in the
Yeah,
city? I saw
exactly.
it's pretty low.
Exactly.
Yeah. But for the 15% survey completion rate, is that typical? I mean, what would be your goal that you'd want to try?
Well, of course, I would love to see greater participation.
Yeah.
But this is a brand new, like, we're actually, Battle Creek Police Department is pioneering this as a result of our kind of the you know, the benefit and kind of our happiness with the information that we're receiving. MSP's looking at going to it, the sheriff's department's looking to going to it. There's other municipalities all over Southwest Michigan that are now looking at this to go to it because of the information and the data that we're able to collect. So we're in it. It's been a short enough time that we're in it. So there's a lot of things that we haven't quite figured out yet.
Yeah.
We're liking the information that we're capturing and we're applying it to how we go about serving.
So it's being used internally to establish like problem spots or things that you need to be working on. Okay.
You could narrow a window of time too. Say if you had some kind of flare up, you could say, let's look at July.
Oh, exactly.
Any specific questions for Chief while we've got him here and you've got this?
I have a specific situation I want to touch about.
Sure.
It can be after the meeting for 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
Be fine. Okay.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate this level of transparency. I think that if we could get this even quarterly, maybe, just to keep our eye on it, that'd be nice. Okay, we've got less than 4 minutes. It's because we're over time, but if there's anything that is on fire for somebody that they were waiting to talk about till we got together, now would be the time before I adjourn us.
Kathy, please don't forget public comment.
Oh, yes. Is there any public comment? Eric there?
It would just be in-person public comment for this meeting.
Oh. Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to consider us adjourned then, and we will be back together again. I think it's April 9th.
Rebecca, could you hold a minute?
All right. I don't know if you're gonna be able to be private with her, Commissioner Bailey.
Okay. Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone, very much.